What's up, everybody? My name is Christian, and I'm a mix engineer. Today we're doing another mix breakdown, and this one is Spinnin by Connor Price. So this whole thing started off with a conversation that Connor and I had about making original samples for some of his new songs. He was asking if there was a way to create samples that had a uniqueness to them, that were maybe some like obscure instruments, bagpipes, things of that nature. And he said, would you like to take that on? And I said, sure. There was a recorder laying around the house, and we both kind of thought that that was the right move. We can get something as annoying as a recorder to have a cool melody, then maybe that would be our first sample. So later that day, I was shopping in the Trader Joe's snack aisle, and I was singing that melody in my head, and I went home right away and recorded it before I forgot it, and that was a sample that you hear now in that song. Now, when it comes to me producing that song, that was all I did. I just recorded the melody, the recorder melody for this, sent it off to Graham. Graham did the rest of it. He threw all the extra kind of cool samples on it, the 808 and the drums and stuff. That was all him. So when I got those stems back from Connor and Graham, this is what I did on the mix. So as you can see here, there's not a whole lot going on here, and that's kind of the case with a lot of these like super simplistic trap, hip hop songs. There's usually just like the drum loop, or two, a few tracks of those, the 808 or the bass, and then like the main sample. And that's exactly what this is. So the drums right here are this. And before we dive too deep into this, let me preface, people like Graham do a great job of already kind of pre-mixing this stuff, and this is why this model works. I think oftentimes it's great to have things kind of separated in a mix, but if you're kind of like Graham and Connor, who like the sound of their demos and know exactly what they want, they don't want that changed a whole lot, they just want everything to kind of find its place in the mix, which is my job, then the stem thing works, and I would always communicate to the producer if I needed more separation. But for this, like, everything sounded already great. Same thing for the sample, it was already put together really well, which is also kind of why I don't have to do a whole lot. Like, as you can see, the processing right here, there's not a whole lot going on, and that's intentional because this song already sounded great. And this was also this mix is a few years old too, and this is the first time I've dived into this mix session since we put this out. This was definitely a phase of my mix career where I was kind of thinking more along the lines of simple is better. And that hasn't really changed that much now. But I remember thinking at the time, if someone sends me something, I just want to make sure that I'm not doing a whole lot to it other than just emphasizing it and making it even better. I still do that now, but there are other ways to kind of do that while making it seem a little bit more disguised. Like you're kind of doing a lot under the hood, but it's more disguised and you're really bringing out more with these plugins instead of like changing everything sonically. But at the time, I was just trying to make sure that I wasn't like overstepping and changing the sonic character of everything too much, which is why you don't see a lot going on right here. But there's kind of more stuff going on in this instrumental and vocal bus. And I've talked about this before, but this is where I get a lot of glue, and I'll go through this later. But that's why you don't see a whole lot of processing here, is because there's a lot more glue limiting stuff going on at the end. So let me go back to the drums here. Now, there's this tape machine that I really like that I have on the drums. Be careful, because it's a crazy one, and it can really bring out a lot of cool low-end stuff, and just the saturation as a whole, that the texture of this plugin's great, but it can be overdone really quick, and you kind of have to watch your parameters. Sometimes you can just throw it on like I did here, and it works fine, especially if it's kind of a low-gain drum track like this is. This is great. Now, oftentimes you do have to kind of change your parameters. This is literally, I just threw this tape machine on and it worked great. You can see here how much the character actually really changes just with this one plugin. Now, other than the like 2 or 3 dB increase, if you have like a sub, or if you're listening on some like quality speakers, the changes going on in the low end with that one plugin is crazy. And then on top of it, it's a crash. Like, what are you gonna do to that, Normally, I'd have drum bus processing like now, just like for some extra glue. At the time, I didn't. And so you can see this whole process here, this whole thought process of mixing is super minimal. Now, here's the bass, same tape machine. Lot of low end boost here. And then this for some extra gain, plus to just kind of even out some of the transients of that. Just evens it out a little bit more. Now here on this sample, again, you don't have to do a whole lot. It was just some EQ kind of boosting here, just to give it some character. I think I tried using the stereo thing. I didn't like it, so I just turned it off. But super straightforward. So here, all together, this is what's going on. Oh, and let me go back to this instrumental thing. So the way that I have my session set up is that I have everything routed to an all music bus and an all vocal bus. That gives me some freedom on if I want to limit each one, just provide some glue on each of the instrumental bus and the vocal bus, or even just automating some volume stuff. I have that freedom to do so. And so for this one, I limited both of them just to kind of squash it, give it some life, bring things out. You can see how much I'm limiting the instrumental bus right here. So let's hop into the vocals here. And for a song like this that doesn't have a whole lot of music stuff, you can see that 95% of the processing is on the vocals. This is just how I like it. This is a lot of where my emphasis as a mix engineer comes in, is making sure that the vocal is standing out and is processed in a way that is bringing a lot of energy to the table, especially in this hip hop realm. It's not about how much you're processing. Like you can see here, I have a lot of processing on it, but you have to make sure that every single plugin has its purpose and that every plugin that I'm stacking is bringing something to the table. So for here, I know I've talked about this before, but I always start with an EQ and a compressor. This EQ and compressor makes the vocal sound like it's in the room with me. And so if I can get the vocal that I'm sent to make it sound like natural and like someone's talking to me, that's my starting point for all vocals every time. Now, sometimes I don't have to do this preliminary EQ. Sometimes those vocals are sent to me and they're perfect. And this is just where you kind of have to use your ears and gauge how much processing you want to do. But for this, I think at the time Connor was using the SM7, it was just sent raw. And so I mixed based off of that knowledge. So it is pretty like muffly and low gain, stuff like that. So let me show you what's going on.
Okay, let's get it. Got a little time on my hands like a wristwatch. I don't got time for the brakes and a pit stop. Race through the gridlock, take it like Chris Rock, right to the chin, still win.
And that's just me EQing it to kind of make it corrective and help it sound like it's in the room. And now same process as I've talked about before. If there's an imaginary line here, this is kind of my corrective. Everything before this is my corrective stuff, and then everything after this is my color. And so different from videos, especially since this is an old mix, different compressor, same concept. So I have this slate kind of take on the 76 here, doing the light compression.
Okay, let's get it. Got a little time on my hands like a wristwatch. I don't got time for the brakes and a pit stop. Race through the gridlock, take it like Chris Rock, right to the chin, still win. Heavy metals like Slipknot. Got the driving, I got tunnel vision. I just hit my...
And now, full honesty, because this is an old mix, I probably wouldn't have slammed it that hard right away. But you know what? Whoops. Anyways, this is where the color really starts to come in. So this is the EQ that brings color.
Okay, let's get it. Got a little time on my hands like a wristwatch. I don't got time for the
Then the
brakes and
compression.
pit stop. Race through the gridlock, take it like Chris Rock, right to the chin, still win. Heavy metals like Slipknot. Got the driving, I got tunnel vision. I just hit my stride
Saturation.
to...
And again, because this is an old mix, I probably would have gone lighter on this one and slammed this a little harder, but you know what? Can't complain. This was like 3 years ago at this point. De-esser and then fresh air. Oh gosh, okay. So I've talked about this before. Fresh air is a dangerous plugin, and now here I am eating my words because look how hard I'm running this guy.
Okay, let's get it. Got a little time on my hands like a wristwatch. I don't got time for the brakes and a pit stop.
Oh man, just being honest with you guys. Crazy work. Anyways, here's my smash and my overdrive that I have parallel that I leave in my template that I drive to taste. So this one's -2, this one's -10. More smash than there is drive, but still, you know, both pretty hot. A lot of it is giving volume too, other than just the tonal character of it, but check this out.
Okay, let's get it. Got a little time on my hands like a wristwatch. I don't got time for the brakes and a pit stop. Race through the gridlock, take it like Chris Rock, right to the chin, still win. Heavy metal.
You drive it to taste depending on what kind of song you're working on. I feel like for hip hop, you know, if you want a vocal to really stand out and really drive, I push these pretty hard. There are other more calm songs. I don't even touch those because it's too much. Like if you drive a vocal that's in like this, you know, kind of country acoustic thing, you can push it to a level where sure it gives some body, but there's a limit to where it just starts distorting and feeling too gritty. It's all to taste. I leave it in there because I don't want to have to set it up every single time. If I do want to use it, I can just kind of reach for it as a tool in my tool belt. But yeah, like this one, I drove it hard, but I don't do that all the time. I have a C6 here just to boost some of those mids. This was so long ago that I can't even tell you why I did that. It just seemed like the right move. And then, you know, delay, verb. I don't talk about this a whole lot, but this verb is the best. You will not get a better verb plugin than Valhalla. My gosh, it's so good. Cool. Same thing for Ben's verse. I'm not even going to go through it because it's the exact same kind of thought process when it comes to processing. Now, here's a cool thing. We have this chant in here.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I mean, it's just Ben's and his pals like, yeah. And this is where you can kind of get creative. This is what it sounded like before. There's 2 tracks. I just needed it to be more beefy because it was leading up to his verse. I'm like, it's got to stand out, you know? And so there's this EQ, just doing some more high pass than anything, a little bit of mid stuff. I have this on everything. It's just kind of a cool preamp vibe. Do I need it? Probably not, but oftentimes it's just there in the template and I leave it on because sometimes I turn it off and there's a pretty noticeable difference. It's not the most life-altering, module on this thing. Here is the distressor.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Obviously slamming it pretty hard. That's 10-1. This cool kind of, vintage tape preamp thing. It's got a cool vibe to it.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
A little extra grit. And then this bomber thing's kind of really important. I don't use this all the time unless I really want something to slap me in the face.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So fun. And then I just kept getting crazy with it. And I was slamming it more.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And I was like, let's keep going, man. And then the decapitator.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And I think the most important part of this is the verb.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And so without it, in comparison now,
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah.
it's just a lot. But in context, it works.
Oh, I've been on a
Yeah,
mission. Okay, let's get it.
I've been on a mission like totally spice on my betty. She bet, but she totally.
That's so fun. And here it is all together.
They said that I couldn't do it, so I went and did it. W's only, I've been winning. Top of the world, the globe is spinning. If you know, I've been on a what mission? Go. Okay, let's get it.
And that's it. I'll see you next time.